It's a balance, and it's really hard to make those decisions. Fortunately, the way we've approached it, and I think it goes back to my father. We're fairly conservative in what we do. We don't need to get out too far over our skis. Let's just keep building this one block at a time. And we had a restaurant there for 8.5 years called 1022, and I kept saying that to my staff. I'm like, we're building this one thing at a time, one step at a time. We're going to get a little bit better each day. And so I think that's been the approach that I learned from my father, that we try to apply to everything we do. Let's just get a little bit better, a little bit better, and a little bit better, and not try and make these meteoric jumps. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming. Fire things that turn me on, drag my dog into the dawn. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
Welcome back, and I'm here with Terry Harvego. He's the CEO of Harvego Companies. He's an entrepreneur. He's a board member of the Sacramento Chamber. How you doing, Terry?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. Now, we've been talking about the Sac Metro a little bit. Give us thoughts on the state of Sacramento Chamber at this stage.
It's a really exciting time for the Chamber. I've been involved with the Chamber pretty much my whole professional life.
Okay.
I feel it's a really important thing to be a part of. I'm excited. I'm on the executive committee. I'm chairing study mission coming up in a couple years. So it's at a really great spot. And I think one of the reasons is the leadership that it has, both the staff leadership and also the board is it's a great group of folks. And I think the next couple of years, you're going to see some really great stuff.
Well, what kind of people are on the board of directors of this organization?
It's a really diverse group, right? We've got big businesses, whether it's Kaiser, whether it's the big companies of our region, but we also have a lot of small businesses, like myself. And I think it's that mix that is going to make sure that we go down the right path, and we're gonna get the job done.
The total perspective, I suppose, right? So thinking about that and how that relates to entrepreneurship and business, can you give us your background and your entrepreneurial story?
Oh, well, it's a crazy one, as many are. I graduated from UCLA with an economics degree, came back to Sacramento, was going to light the world on fire. I was going to be a stockbroker. Went to Merrill Lynch, took my test, and they said, thank you, but no thank you.
Oh.
And so I'm out. So I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm 20 whatever, 2 years old, trying to figure it out. And so I started a small business. We were factoring some receivables, just anything to
Giving
make it,
some helping loan money to people who are going out and buying stuff. Yeah,
right, yeah, with SMUD
Businesses.
and some other programs. And at the same time, there was this girl that I'd met in college, and she would move back to Tempe, Arizona to go to ASU for business and law school. So I'm like, I got to get out there somehow. So I go out there and I get a job selling insurance. And first day, I really liked the guy that hired me. I walk in and he goes, okay, you're going to be working for I can't even remember the guy's name. And he's the typical guy from New Jersey. The shirt undone, the gold chains, the whole story,
How you
right?
doing?
Yeah, totally like that. And he goes, Terry, how you doing? I go, good. And he drops the phone book on my desk. He says, start with the A's and just start cold calling. And it was the most miserable 6 weeks of my life, but I learned so much. I now have so much respect for people that cold call. I don't hang up on them. I say, hey, appreciate what you're doing, but I'm not interested. But it was a really humbling experience. And so we got through that.
So you had a few humbling experiences. You had you failed the test with Merrill Lynch.
Yep.
Then you're stuck going through a phone book, and I know there is a lot of rejection. I've done that kind of thing myself, so I know how that can feel.
Well, I think it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And but then I was lucky enough to get a job with Colliers selling apartment buildings out in Arizona. So it was kind of in that sales field. I like the real estate stuff, but again, that's a tough road to start out. And I think our first year, I worked for the #1 selling apartment broker from the previous year, and we sold 0 apartments the first year. It was remarkably bad, but that's all right. But we got through that, and then I really started to get my stride with real estate and enjoying that, working with smaller apartment units, right? So I was dealing with principals. I wasn't dealing with a real estate committee. I was dealing with the guy that, this was his retirement plan, or he maybe had 2 complexes. So you're starting to really deal with entrepreneurs from other businesses, and I think I really enjoyed that, getting to hear about their paint and decorating company or their delivery company or whatever it was. And so while I'm selling the real estate side of it, I also got to do some more on the entrepreneur side and learn about it.
Okay, well, so you're in Arizona. Somehow you got back here to Sacramento. This is your hometown, right?
This is my hometown. I
Yeah.
was born and raised here. Went to Mariemont Elementary School, Rio High School, lived in Arden Park. And what had happened was my father, who is actually where I really initially saw the first signs of entrepreneurship. Quick little side story. I'm 10 years old. My dad's working for the Department of Water Resources and doesn't ever miss a day of work, right? So one day I come home from school and my dad's home at 3:30, and I kind of look at my mom. I'm like, "What's wrong with Dad?" She pulls me aside and said, "He's going to start his own company. So he's going to be working out of the bedroom for a while." I'm like, "Okay, that's weird, but okay. But can you still get me to swim practice, right?" Because I didn't really care about it, right? But fast forward through life, and you start to realize what ambition and what type of guts that took, for somebody who's, I don't know, whatever, 40 years old, 2 kids, one about going to college, and he goes and starts his own thing. But I got to witness some of the things that he went through, and so I really kind of was attracted to that. But our lives, went in different directions. I'm in Arizona, and then fortunately, in 1999, he had merged his company that he'd grown and made very successful, and he was looking to work back in Sacramento. And part of that was to have a real estate component.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, I can help you with that because that's what I do. And so we were able to start working together. And eventually I was doing enough stuff that it made sense for me to come back and move to Sacramento and work on it full time.
Wow. So we haven't talked about your restaurant background. So we know the Firehouse Restaurant. So part of this real estate empire, I suppose, and there's a food component to this too. Give us how does all that work?
How does a guy get into the real estate and restaurant business, right? Your accountant says don't do those two things. The restaurant came about really. My father had gotten to know Mario Ortiz, so anybody who's been to the Firehouse knows Mario. He's been there for 40-something years over the years. And at the time, we kind of learned that the ownership, who actually started the restaurant in 1960, the Cope family, and then passed it on to his daughter, Catherine McMillan, was running it, but she had some other interests in San Francisco, was looking to maybe sell it. And as we were starting this company, my father and I, he really wanted to have a home base in Sacramento because his previous career, he didn't do anything in Sacramento. It was all out of the state. And I obviously had been in Arizona, so I didn't have the connections. So we saw the Firehouse as this great opportunity to take this iconic name, this iconic brand that most Sacramentans have either been to a wedding or been to an anniversary dinner or done something there.
bet.
And so we thought we could take this great asset, market it, put a little management together for it, was a little more structure to it. And at the time, back in 99, really developed the wine program as wine was starting to become a bigger part of everybody's life. So we said, hey, let's go for it. And I kind of worked on the real estate acquisition side of it. My dad was more the restaurant management, putting in a system for that. And we were off and running. And so we bought the Firehouse December 1st, 1999.
So you have the restaurant business, kind of as a home base here.
Yeah.
You're doing real estate. Well, let's have an office. Let's buy a restaurant.
Right.
Good idea.
Well, I don't know if it's a good idea. It's turned out to be great.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so fun to hear the stories. And that's the one thing about, as hard as the restaurant business is, and it's crazy, and every restaurateur will tell you that, it's so much fun to show somebody a good time. And when they have that experience and they share that with you and they thank you for it, it's a pretty great feeling.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show. When Marcus, my son, went into the Marines, went into boot camp, we had a couple hours to kill. Let's have one great dinner before we drop him off. And we went to the Firehouse Restaurant.
Yeah.
Did a little toast, and next thing you know, he's doing his Marine Corps stint. So, iconic moments happen at certain places, and I think at iconic places many times, so like the Firehouse. Yeah. So thinking about your business, you've got all the real estate stuff. Maybe give us an overview of what you have real estate-wise, maybe the totality of the operation.
Sure. So at the same time we bought the Firehouse, we do the other thing the accountant would tell you not to do. We bought 2,000 acres of raw land up around what's now Auburn Country Club.
Okay.
And that was kind of my focus there for a long time, and we worked on that. And a great story with that, in 2006, I think we were in contract with a home builder to sell the whole thing. And I remember walking into the meeting, and here's the plans for this beautiful oak woodlands. Was going to be 1,000 red tile roofs, and they were going to cut down all the trees and, just I'm all for development, but this was the wrong project and on the wrong spot. And fortunately, that deal fell apart.
Okay.
And we were able to kind of come back to some of the parties, and we were able to sell off about 1,700 acres to the land trust.
Okay.
So this beautiful
Before the crash, though, before
this
2008.
was after the crash.
Okay.
After the crash. So it took a while, but it was worth the wait, because now we've got 2,000 acres that are preserved forever, that are connecting to Spears Ranch, another ranch. So they're going to end up with about 5,000 contiguous acres.
Wow.
Oak woodlands. It's preserved forever. So that was a great story. I really enjoyed that
Well,
one.
what about staying agile during the crash, right? So a lot of people in real estate were devastated. Here, you and your family found a way to, I guess, survive it, and now you're obviously thriving. Any thoughts on how you stay solvent in those times?
Well, it's one of those things is try not to get out over your skis, right? Do what you can do and don't get too leveraged. At the same time, in 2006, we began construction of the Orleans building down in Old Sacramento, which was the first new construction since 1972. And it was on a lot that the city had owned since 1970 and had just been vacant. And the city was looking to do something with that and trying to help revitalize Old Sacramento. And I think with our involvement with the Firehouse, and we know what a special place Old Sacramento can be and should be, we thought this was a great project. So we were partnered with the city. So that was a great relationship, and we built a 46,000 square foot mixed use building down there. We threw 24 high-end lofts up above restaurant space on the ground floor. And so we did things a little different. Everyone's saying, why aren't you going to have these for sale, these condos for sale? Well, that was a great idea in 2006, but by the time we were done in 2008 and they were for rent, we were very, very happy with that result.
Thinking about just like staying opportunistic, if you're obviously one of these guys that is opportunistic, obviously with land purchases and executing at the right time. Is it more important to have a war chest built up, or how do you decide whether to keep the pedal on the metal, pushing that top line, grow, but yet still be ready to be, handle the tough times?
Right. It's a balance, and it's really hard to make those decisions. Fortunately, the way we've approached it, and I think it goes back to my father. We're fairly conservative in what we do. We don't need to get out too far over our skis. Let's just keep building this one block at a time. And we had a restaurant there for 8.5 years called 1022, and I kept saying that to my staff. I'm like, we're building this one thing at a time, one step at a time. We're going to get a little bit better each day. And so I think that's been the approach that I learned from my father, that we try to apply to everything we do. Let's just get a little bit better, a little bit better, and a little bit better, and not try and make these meteoric jumps.
So times are changing in the restaurant business. I mean, you think about technology and how that's disrupting basically everything. Is technology helpful for you guys in your restaurant business, or maybe in your real estate business, or is that not a factor?
Well, I think let me talk about the restaurant side of it for a minute. If you look at what the technology is doing, I think it's driving the division of types of restaurants, right? When you had 1022, it was kind of a family style, casual. Come in, you sit down, you have a nice table, maybe some wine glasses on the thing, and your price point is very competitive with a lot of other folks. Firehouse is more of an experience. It's fine dining. It's white linen. Those are two different markets.
It's like a destination.
Yeah, right. But so what's happening with, I'll call the middle of the market, is with all this delivery and all this technology, if you don't have a delivery component of your business, you're going to get hurt. But to have that delivery component, you have to have a certain type of food. You have to have it be able to travel well. You have to have broad appeal. So it's starting to kind of bifurcate the two, if you will, where we're kind of, I think, pushing in some cases the quality and the excitement down a little bit to be more competitive, which I don't think is a great thing, but it's an economic reality.
Yeah. So thinking about your next big thing, like your next big opportunity, describe to us what you're looking for or what you're attacking hard right now.
Right. I think it's going to, the scary part about the real estate is where the real estate prices are, right? Everything's inflated. Everybody's wondering when the next crash is going to be. So I do think, though, through that, there'll be some opportunities. We've got some opportunities to develop out our land up in Auburn a little bit and do some really cool stuff with equestrian centers and things like that I'm excited to figure out. And at the same time, I think Old Sacramento is teed up for some greatness. And the reason I say that is it's been ignored for years, right? from the city council to whomever. And today we have in Mayor Steinberg someone who says, I want the waterfront and I want it now. Yeah. And we were having conversations at the highest level with the state about how we better organize the district, because we waste so many resources, right? Because you got the state owns a third, the city owns a third, and private property owns a third.
Okay.
And so we're overlapping resources like crazy, and we're not getting anything done. So I think we finally are getting from the highest levels the demand, basically, of their staffs to figure this thing out. It's where the Transcontinental Railroad ended. It's where the gold rush started. It's got 26 acres of beautiful historic buildings. We've got underground tours. We've got the waterfront already there, right?
Yes.
It's there. We just need to make it 15% better.
Yeah.
As opposed to starting with a blank slate. We're already there. So how do we make it 15% better and attract more of our locals to come down, not just on weekends, but throughout the year and throughout the week? And I think we can do that. I think DOCO is going to help that. We've been kind of a barrier for a long time, but now that that's opened up, DOCO's bringing more people down to the area, and I think that's going to help rejuvenate old Sacramento. And if we get a couple of more great tenants down there, I think we're going to be off and running.
Yeah, sometimes it's that breakthrough moment. We got the Sacramento Kings stayed in town. You see what's happening if the Republic or when the Republic gets their MLS team. You start seeing the community coming together, right? The Sac Metro Chamber, the city. You talked about Daryl, the entrepreneurs like yourself coming together. I think we can really transform our hometown.
I do, and I think we also have some great organizations that are finding their space. Whether it's GSAC or say COG and Bill Mueller, what he's doing. I think everybody's finding their space, and I think working collectively, I think we can do some great things. And I'm really looking forward to the future of Sacramento.
Terry Harvego, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for what you do for our community. Your advice is well taken. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
You bet. If you like our entrepreneurial stories, if you like the messages that we bring that inspire, if you want a little more Mark Haney, not everybody does, but if you do, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to be part of our community, engage, comment, share. I want to get to know you better. You want to get to know me better. Follow me on all our social media platforms at The Mark Haney. I look forward to knowing you better, and let's get to know each other better so we can help build these businesses that we love.